Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special DePaul Esports live stream. Today, Courtney and I are joined by Rob and Christy from Gamers.Vote, and together we're going to have a conversation about voter engagement and registration and why it's so important, even to those who might be more interested in gaming than voting at first glance. So, Rob, Christy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way this is going to work to everybody watching, we just have a few questions to sort of serve as prompts for the conversation. Some of them will be for Rob and Christy. Others will be for Courtney and I to talk on more so of like DePaul's behalf. And then others will be for all of us to talk about. So if you have any questions of your own, feel free to drop them in the Twitch chat or in your Facebook comments or from YouTube, wherever you happen to be watching, and we will pull them up and answer them later on during the stream. So without further ado, are you all ready to get going?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, cool.
All right, awesome, perfect. So for the first question, this is for the Gamers.Vote representatives, Rob and Christy. Can you two tell us a little bit more about the Gamers.Vote initiative and why it was started initially?
Right. So our founder, Steve Lipscomb, he's a huge pro-democracy guy. He's been doing work in the space for about 20 years. A guy who will never retire. And he used to just had a habit of like walking precincts and making sure everyone had what they needed, not about who they were going to vote for, just if they had a plan, if they needed anything, if they knew the date. And the amount of people who proudly said that they were not going to vote within the age range, probably like 20 to 40, was enough to make him go have a heart-to-heart with his kids when he went home. And his son is a giant gamer and really tuned into the esports side of things on that. And so, they collectively started to build a plan around that. And then by 2018, they started to go to a lot of different esports conferences, and they sat down with Kevin Lynn, and he came up with the idea of a vote-a-thon day, like a one-day event in July to raise awareness about registering gamers to vote. And here we are, much larger than a one-day event, and so many incredible partners putting on things since basically the start of July. We're still going very strong all the way until November 3rd, and even have plans beyond that. So it's been a really wonderful ride to be a part of.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Gamers.Vote is more than just a nonprofit organization, right? We're a movement. We hope to be the rallying cry across all kinds of different folks, whether they're just a streamer or large events and organizations that are getting bored. Everybody can get behind Gamers.Vote and be a part of the message and movement that we are. And it's all about participation. It doesn't matter if you're too small, too big, none of those things matter. It's about sharing your voice and lending it to the participation in voting.
I'll even be additive to that. Like, one of the best things that we got to do is that there is no too small or too big way to partner with Gamers.Vote. And so with that, we've seen such a great variety of activations or social support or tentpole events or adding us to existing events in a way that has allowed us to touch so many different spaces, from tabletop to mobile to esports, pro, and collegiate. It's been really great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thanks so much for the answer and the introduction. When I first heard about like Gamers.Vote, I was really excited to hear about it because it was like because for the exact reasons you were mentioning, it's really focused on like inclusivity and making sure that like anybody that wishes to work with you guys to at least some capacity can be involved in a way that's productive for everybody's respective community. So that's really great to hear. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Yeah. I just to even say that, like, I am such a true believer in the fact that, like, in a world where we're not getting all our information for perhaps the newspaper that arrives on our door, both locally and nationally, right? We're getting news in a bunch of different ways. And so what a great way to have the community be their own advocates for this in a variety of different ways, being a trusted resource, being able to provide that. So it's been wild to see.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so the next question is going to be, this next question is more on behalf of like what we're doing at DePaul University. So Courtney, you might be more inclined to start out on this one. I can chime in where necessary if I have anything else to add. But so what does DePaul University do to support voter engagement efforts on campus, or at least like on our own personal grounds, digitally or in person?
Muted.
I think you're muted.
Of course, right?
It's a good habit. It's a good habit to be in, though.
I know, right?
It's a great habit.
Yeah, and I dropped something before, so it's good that you all didn't hear that. DePaul for years has really been, working to support voter engagement efforts, both during presidential election years, but also during local elections that we have. And we've been doing it in a variety of different ways. One of the ones that our students probably hear about most frequently is we've utilized a site called TurboVote that assists with voter registration. So, it assists people or assists students in signing up, but also allows them to sign up for reminders for both of this, obviously national election, but also local elections. So we, through the years, have really kind of just talked about it as a resource. But specifically for this year, I'd say that DePaul has really amped up voter engagement efforts in a big way. So some of our students may have heard about our voter registration geniuses. So we have students who are doing one-on-one appointments with students to walk them through what the voter registration process looks like in their specific state. We have a voter engagement working group that has probably about 10 to 12 offices and organizations contributing to, again, promote this message about voter engagement, but also to create one-on-one opportunities for people to learn how to get registered. And especially, for our young 18, 19-year-old students who may have never voted before, we're really trying to focus on giving them the opportunity to learn how to vote and why it's so important. Because we know that students are creating these practices that are going to live with them for the rest of their lives, for the entire time that they're able to vote, especially if they stay in the country here. So when I remember, Matt, when I initially saw Gamers.Vote, I actually saw it because of the announcement that they had with the collaboration with EGF, which obviously we are a part of that with 3 of our varsity teams. And thanks for repping the jersey. But it just so naturally aligned with, as I went through the website and through some of their collateral, it so naturally aligned with a lot of the other voter engagement initiatives that we've done, but it's for this the focus obviously is on this really specific population. And, we're really lucky at DePaul. We have over 1,300 student gamers and a ton of varsity teams. So I think it was just a really great opportunity for us to expand our portfolio, if you will, of ways that we can connect about voter engagement. So luckily, when Christy and I had an initial conversation, and none of the ideas or the things that she said they all very much aligned with what Gamers.Vote is trying, or Gamers.Vote is trying to do. So it's been great. And our esports students have probably seen the streams from our Streamin' Demons, and we've got our Discord channel up and going that talks about deadlines and other things. But that's a little bit about our initiatives that we've had here at DePaul.
I'm just going to jump in and say that's so incredible. I love that you guys are incorporating into your Discord groups. It's awesome. It's great to see.
Yeah, I could definitely say, as like a DePaul student myself, I've been here for a few years now, and I could definitely say that with this year, it really feels like we're just, especially now more than ever, really firing on all cylinders, like making sure that everybody knows that there's some sort of resource for them, no matter what their age group is as a student or what their experience is with voting. There's some sort of resource for you here, to be able to help you be able to register to vote, make sure you know everything you need to know. So it's really great to be able to see, especially when it comes into esports, making sure that no corner is left unexplored with making sure that voter engagement is promoted on campus. So yeah, it's been really great to see. And okay, so this next question is for all of us to start to kind of build off of for a discussion, and it is the all essential question: why is it important to get registered to vote in the first place?
Well, if you don't get registered to vote, you can't vote. So it's like a chicken or the egg. It really answers that question. You must be registered to vote. You don't have to worry about it. You're like, oh, which one comes first? Register. You have to register. End of story. So that's an easy one. Next. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, the good thing is, if you're not registered to vote, you still have some days in Chicago, so that's great. And then you can still register in person, I believe, in your state if you're living in Chicago. So that's on the actual November 3rd, which is fabulous. If you're in another, you need to go check anyways your registration status and all the rules and guidelines.
I think the topic you were tumbling us down is wider than just why is it important to register to vote. It's more about some of the process of things. So a couple of notes about that. So you, where you're at, still have some time to register to vote, right? So that's one. Two, even if you've passed your registration date in your state, wherever you're watching at, you've missed this election, perhaps. It should make you upset, and you should go register to vote now for the next time you have to do it, so you don't have to worry about it. It's already present, top of mind. I need to get registered. Register and vote. There's no wrong time to vote or register to vote. There's better times to vote, but there's absolutely no bad time to get registered to vote. Just better ones. So that's that. I think your question leads us into the importance of voting, perhaps.
Yeah.
Why is it important to vote? Well, I mean, this is your right here to use your voice in a meaningful way, whether it's for, and I say this all the time, whether you're voting for change or voting for support. If you like something that exists or you don't like something that exists and you want to affect those changes, unfortunately, the way of passivism and not being involved and not voting isn't going to do it. We don't live in those times anymore.
I was going to say, complaining on the internet, for example, will really affect you for some things, does not really apply to civic engagement.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, like, we could see all the, but there's things that come of those changes. But for the most part, most of the things that we want to affect change on or support are through the voting process. And so that is your best way. It affects your daily lives, whether it's something big like this presidential election, the upcoming midterms in a couple of years, to your state and local things. Like, all of those things affect your everyday life way more than you think. And you have the power to actually cast a vote, literally, in that direction and help make the changes that you want. And hopefully you're rallying your friends and colleagues around, getting them involved. And some of them won't share the same ideas and the passions that you have, but the more that do, the more that will, right?
Yeah, exactly. It really is just a matter of like making sure that your voice is heard and making sure that you go out and register like as soon as you can. Like you mentioned, like it's like even if you end up missing like one election, you got to make sure that you're registered at least for the next one, just so that you secure.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if you think that you're registered, it's still really important to
double check
status, because you never know if you've moved. You just double check. It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah, and it's even easier. Some states offer permanent early voter registration. So not only can you register to vote, but you can register for early registrations where they send you your ballots ahead of time. So if you don't ever want to deal with the going and being there and doing those things, you can go and get your ballot. Literally, this is mine, sitting right here, early mailed to me, so I can send it in and be done. There's all kinds of different tools to help you do that. So,
yeah, that's great. And I know that something that you mentioned a little bit earlier is how it really is how like voting can like sort of like in a domino effect sort of way really affect like every sort of aspect of your life. So that would stretch as well to like gamers as well, and like people that are just might be more involved with might be very involved with esports. It really doesn't it doesn't really matter if you're more of a gamer or not. Like as long as it's still going to be affecting your life in like a serious way. So it's really important to make sure that your voice is heard and to make sure that like you get those opinions out there and make sure you get your vote out there.
Well, and Matt, I think that speaks to something that we oftentimes hear from students and from young people is like, especially in Illinois. I mean, we as a state, anybody can look at what our typical voting history looks like, especially in national elections. But so I think sometimes students will say like my vote doesn't matter in the sea of votes, but it actually does, because your vote is tied to is you as an individual and an age bracket and a narrative about what you care about and how engaged you are and how much you care about your society and how people talk about generations then, right? So like it might be one vote. And, again, in a national election, national and local elections are a little bit different in terms of like the power of what your vote has. But there's only, if you look at statistics for college students, the numbers say, at least in the 2016 election, only about 40% of college students actually showed up to vote. And you all care so much more than that. Like I see, especially for college students, and I mean, we've seen it in our Discord, we've seen it in so many different chats. You are passionate about these issues. You're passionate about so many things. And they're going to people look at those numbers and those statistics. And when people don't show up to vote, then they equate it to a lack of passion or a lack of caring about an issue. And that's not the truth at all, right? So you've got to, I know sometimes there's concerns about what the institution looks like. And I mean, that's a conversation for another day. But right now, you've got to show up so that people know that your generation cares and that you want to be part of this narrative too.
And so what Courtney said, 100%, the amount of people who do not participate is louder and larger, right? And so what would that be when they show up, right? Like, how do we get younger people to know that they have so much power that is not necessarily being used right now. And what would voter turnout look like in a state that may go one way or another more notoriously than another state that's a swing state? So I would love to see what, I don't know, very close to 98% turnout would look like on a national level. One can dream.
You think about the mass that we have, the amount of people that this encompasses, the gamers, 130 plus million of eligible voters, let alone all the 16, 15, 12, 13, all these other kids that are coming up, their voices adding to when it's their turn, right? We talk about all the time, one of our objectives is to get all of the young players that are playing Fortnite, Rocket League, whatever those games might be, excited about leveling up to 18 so they can then contribute their voice, right? Imagine the pull that this populace has to the voting. It's strikingly important.
If you look at gamers as a voting bloc, we're only going to be growing, right? Like in the next 4 years, that number is going to be even more massive, and that's exciting to me as we continue to connect to all of our partners. Like, what does it look like when we all grow up? Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are really great points. Thank you so much for all of you for sharing your insight on that. So now that we've sort of laid the groundwork of why voting is so important for not just not for just some people, but for everybody that's eligible to vote, how can students and young people just in general effectively talk to each other and promote voter engagement amongst each other?
One of the things I'll mention is just some of the tips that we're trying to connect our different communities in is that idea of squatting up to go vote. So we find it's really helpful if you pick a time and a place and when you're going to do that, whether it's mail-in voting or you're going to go in person or early voting. And so making that statement out loud, whether it's on social or to your group of friends, and holding yourselves accountable to committing to go do the thing together is a really great way to show up and, again, put your voice to some use.
Yeah, that works. That works in so many things. We hear all the time about fitness, right? Who's your workout buddy? All those different things. Like the idea of the accountability of others is really, really strong, right? If your friends know, like, I need you to hold me to this, and I can't eat any more Twinkies this week, or hey, make sure I vote this week, right? Same context. People will care about other people, and the more that do, the more that will. I'll keep saying that. And so the idea of the squad concept, it doesn't even matter if you're all voting for the same people or different things. That's not the point. The point is to get people together to be accountable about doing the thing, not who, the thing. Right? Yeah. So that's one. Another is.
Sorry. No, it's all right.
I would say it's like when we talk about students. And some might not be eligible. I think most college students are of age and doing those things. But again, these are the most influential people in many households, right? So they're accountable for their families, their elder siblings, mom and dad. Like, are you voting? Did you vote? Why didn't you vote? Why aren't you a part of that? That's something that even the younger kids can do. Like having them understand how important it is to vote, making sure that other people are accountable and doing their part in that.
Yeah, and I think students might be, especially for people who are registered to vote, you might be, watching the stream and like, I get it. Like I've registered. I registered when I turned 18. I know what to do. But I think honestly, for me, through this, like the past couple of months, I've been shocked still how many students still are trying to figure out how to get registered. And I've been in a couple different org meetings where, I have a script at this point of like, here's where to go. Here's how to get registered. And I'm always amazed. I always have 2 or 3 students who will message me and say, like, can you say that link again? So I think it's this thing that like you can talk to about voter registration with your friends, especially if, like, I mean, right now we should all care about what's going on in the world, right? We should always all have at least, some investment, but just even asking them, and especially if you've done it recently, to have that knowledge base and be able to talk them through like, hey, it was really easy. Like, just go to this website. They'll walk you through how to do it. But asking that question, I think sometimes serves as a prompt. And again, it's like, Christy talked about like this group mentality. Like when one person does it, it turns into a snowball. 1 turns into 2, turns into 4, turns into 8, right? Like just keep talking about it and keep reinforcing it and like make it the thing to do. And because I think sometimes people, it might be a little bit awkward, but it's worth just hey, are you registered? Yep. Nope. Okay, great. Like, and move on with your life, right? Like, yeah. Even as gamers, you can start your days of, or like your while a stream is loading or a game is loading, you can say like, hey, is everybody registered? Nope. Okay, let me throw this link in here, get registered. It literally takes like 3 minutes. Like it's so simple, but you can't vote unless you have the opportunity to do so.
Absolutely. Sorry, Rob. I was going to say that one of the best things is right now about social is that there isn't a platform that doesn't have it almost integrated in or really easy accessible for you to be able to share and hold people accountable. So if that question's happening and if you're streaming, right, dropping that link right into chat, it's Discord, having a conversation about the good and the bad. How long did it take you? How difficult was it for you? I think that feedback is great. And that's something to complain about on the internet about. The process. Was it difficult for you? Was one of your states not one of the online ability to register online? Like that's a great way to get your community to be like, why? Why in Arkansas can we not go register online? And how do we fix that? So I think just a conversation about it all the time is great in ways that are meaningful. And challenge your friends in a fun way.
And I was going to say, one of the points is to not make it combative. It's not about the who or the what or the policies or the items that are up for grabs, right? Because I think that gets very polarizing, and then people get turned off and they think that you have to follow their line, and that's not the case. It's about, make sure that you are also registered, even if we disagree on topics and things, because you should be voting if I'm voting, because you'd want to make sure that you're voting if I'm voting, perhaps. Or, it's not about the topics and the items, because I think that turns a lot of people, the conversations, in a difficult way. Because, especially as gamers are, very polarizing and very opinionated and very staunch in the ways that they feel about things. And sometimes that's abrasive. Could be, because I believe in this thing very strongly, or I don't. And it could create friction. It's not about that. It's about, hey, make sure you're doing the thing for yourself, because you want to be able to say that you had that voice, you contributed. Another item.
As we're all gamers here, though, if you think about it from the fact that the reason why it's called Gamers.Vote is because no matter how much we disagree on so many different things in the games that we love, even, let alone the games that we do not like, and the reasons why, we still come together as the community that we are, right? We show up at conferences, we know and appreciate the fact that we all have something in common, and that's what it is. Voting is something we all share in common. It's a thing that we can all go do. We don't have to get into the of it, and it's not partisan to say go vote. And I think that's one of our biggest challenges is making younger generations and even my own age come to terms with the fact that saying that is a great thing. Participating in democracy is something to be really proud about.
And another last moment is we talked about sharing the voice, making sure people are registered. Another is volunteer your time and do things, right? The poll workers are always an issue, right? The polls are always understaffed, and if they're staffed by a lot of times elderly people, which in this environment, very dangerous, right? You're talking about the health hazards of things, older people out there amongst crowds of people. And we need to have another generation of people out there contributing and being a part of that system. So supporting the polls, other things are a great way for folks to get involved and do more than just sharing the message, which is important, but you can do more.
Cool.
Yeah, I think those are all really good points. It really is just a matter of making it more of like a conversational piece and making it less of like a more confrontational, like you were mentioning, Rob. Making sure that it's not confrontational, making sure it doesn't matter what our opinions may be. The important thing is that everybody goes to vote and that everybody's properly represented in their own individual way. So yeah.
Make it a priority. It doesn't matter if you me, a CEO, a person who bags groceries, all have the same voice, right? And it's one of the few things that we have in life. I mean, we can all go to Starbucks and buy the same drink. You're welcome, Starbucks. But there's very few things that we can have just that level of equality, and this is one of them, and it's an important one. My voice counts as much as somebody who owns a massive multi-million-dollar corporation, right? And that's powerful. Not always do you have that.
Yep, I think that's really well said. All right, well, we are coming down to our last couple of questions, but to anybody watching, if you do have any questions that you wanted to ask any of us, feel free to go ahead and ask using the respective streaming service that you're watching via. No matter where you're posting it from, we'll be able to see it. So feel free to ask it, and then we'll be sure to answer it in just a little bit. But in any case, so our next question is going to be in regards to said viewers. So we might be there's a good chance we'll be having quite a few first-time voters that could be listening and watching right now, or will be watching the past broadcast. So for those people that may be new to voting, based on your experiences or our experiences collectively, what's a little bit about could we share a little bit about what it's like to vote either in person or remotely via online or by mail for that matter?
I'll take a stab just because I just moved recently, so I had to redo my driver's license, my registration for my car, and get registered to vote again. And it was incredibly fast. I was actually kind of mad about how efficient and fast it was. I was a little pissed because I wanted to be mad about how long it took. But I was like, by the time I got the notification that my ballot was in the mail to me, I freaking had the thing in the mailbox. I'm like, this is so freaking easy. It's literally sitting here and I'm filling it out. I just got it. And so it's like unbelievably, ridiculously easy. I've got my ballpoint pen. I'm making my selections. There's a couple of candidates, even myself. Like I have never been an overly educated political person, but I do kind of pay attention to things. And so as I've done, there's a couple of things that I've missed on this that I'm doing some research on and trying to find out some information so I can vote the way I would like to vote. But simple. I'm going to take it, and for me, I'm going to drop it off at a polling ballot station that's not too far, about a mile and a half away from the house. I'm just going to run in there and drop it off, and that's my experience being prepared and doing that stuff. Now, other results may vary.
I was just going to say, if you're going to go in person to go out and vote, I mean, beyond taking your ID and obviously having a mask because we want to be safe and protect all those who are around us. And the other part is like, you know what? There could be lines. So do you have a snack? Do you have a bottle of water? Prepare to potentially be in a scenario. Like, I don't know where you're based, what the scenario is for you specifically, but just go prepared for it may be taking longer. But so far, it's been really varied responses from the people that I spoke to for early voting. So I think just like researching your own area and finding out what that could look like for you and making sure you have what you need, whether it's 2 energy bars or, some.
And some friends to go with, right? Everything is better with friends. So being able to sit in line, like I went to movies all the time and hanging out in line with my friends and doing those things, even if we have to wait for a while. Cool, great. We got something to pass the time. We're gamers, and your games, and your mobile phone, whatever they get. But be prepared. Double check to see what you need to bring to be able to vote. If there's any pre-work that you need to do, bring your ID, bring your information, be prepared to stand there and take care of things. And the last thing is educate yourself a little bit, because there's always way more questions and opportunities to vote. I mean, a lot of people just look at the presidential election as like, well, I'm voting between a couple of different things, but there are bills and propositions, tons of stuff in there and other candidates that you need to vote on. Take a little bit of time and research what you'll be voting for, so you don't just sit there and, be like a bad student in class, just kind of bumbling in CCABB, you want to be able to make the decisions that are best for you.
And if things go online and you're not going with friends, we have seen a lot of people going with a Switch. Like you have a mobile game that you want to play. Do you have an extra battery on your phone? Like all those things are what I would consider packing with you while you're going into an unknown circumstance. And then, from there, one of the things I think you also should be doing is researching your state. Some states are going to take longer to count ballots, and that is a normal thing. And especially given the pandemic, things are not going to happen on an election night anymore. So just getting very comfortable finding out about if you have a down ballot scenario, like Kentucky, for example, is going to be slower than other states for calculating all of that. So just getting prepared, and as you learn more, perhaps consider being an advocate within your own community and your own friend group, making sure that everyone in your group or your family knows that it might take a while, right? Yeah. To find this out. And it's not going to be like previous presidential elections, and it's okay to not know right away.
Yeah. Go with purpose. This is my last comment on that. Know that you're going to vote and do something well. Don't be swayed that, if there's a line, stay in it, because it doesn't matter if you come back tomorrow, there'll probably be a line and things. And know that you're being appreciated. The people that are going out there and voting are doing the work. And so, but you have to go knowing that I'm going to stay here and do this thing because of reasons. Plan your day ahead of it.
It's been really inspiring, by the way, if anyone's following the news right now, people bringing lawn chairs and sticking out there despite the lineups being as long as they have been in certain areas. So if they can do it, you can do it. Just go prepared with all the things you need to stick it out.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I would add, particularly, at least for me, when I go to vote in person, there's a few things to know. And I remember, back to the first time that I voted. So they're going to give you like a really long sheet of paper. The president, at least in my county, and I assume this is similar to elsewhere, presidential election will be listed first. Then you'll have like your state elections and your local elections, and your questions will be at the end as well. So in Illinois, I don't know if this is a rule statewide. You can't take pictures of your ballot, so don't have your cell phone out taking pictures of like, this is who I'm voting for. They'll share with you about all of those different things. So this isn't you can take a picture of yourself outside of it with your I voted sticker if you really want to, but just know that there are certain parameters about the space and what you can and can't do in the space as well. But the people who are there, the election officials, are there to help. So it'll generally be a very, quiet environment. It is how it looks on TV with like the stations all over the place that have like the trifolds. So you can't copy somebody else's answers, right? Which hopefully you shouldn't be doing anyway because you've done your own research. But it's a pretty quick process, especially if you've done your research beforehand and you know who you're voting for. In and out, if you go through and read it, it probably will take you 5-7 minutes at the most. And then depending on where it is, you'll just put your ballot in and really kind of head off on your way. Like Rob said, though, I did mine via mail this year because I wanted to have the time to like research a little bit more. Like I had, because of where I live and where I'm registered, I had some questions that I wanted to explore a little bit further. So that is a great option if you haven't done it. But Matt, I'm curious for you, like, what's your experience been like voting?
With voting, so yeah, for this year it's been the same deal. I've been doing the mail-in voting because I've just been in Chicago, so the process is like relatively the same. And yeah, I mean, it was exactly as you've been putting it. It's just very quick. You go to they just mail in the ballot, and you just go ahead and submit it. It's a very quick process. It's really not that difficult to do. And I haven't actually done in-person voting yet, so I'm not quite as familiar with the standing in line with the lawn chairs process. But I've known plenty of my friends that have done in-person voting. They've gone to their polling places that have very, very long lines. But even then, like you've mentioned, there's still some easy tips to make it much better of an experience. You can bring like your phone chargers, you could bring your headphones, your Nintendo Switch, my personal favorite.
Play some Mario Kart with your friends and everybody who's around all the time.
So I haven't been to a conference or E3 event where I wasn't in some sort of lineup for a thing I wanted. This is no different. We know how to come prepared for lineups. But yeah. Separate from, I was going to say, you can take a picture of your empty ballot. That's actually a great way to incentivize like a blank ballot, just a picture of without anything filled out. Is sometimes I've seen a lot of people doing that on social just to kind of like let people know, they're in the process of about being able to do it. The same as mailing it, right? Like or the drop off picture. Mm-hmm. That's a great way to say like, I'm going to do the thing and now I did it. And what are you doing?
Yeah, just be careful. Just double check your rules apply and stuff. Just double check.
Well, each precinct going locally and you're taking a photo at your voting station, there are rules specifically to how far you need to be away to take a picture, even with the voting sticker. So that's where Courtney's advice of asking and the people that are out there they're there to help you.
Nothing worse than finally getting there to vote and then getting thrown out. So just don't do that. Don't get in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are running a little bit short on time, and I don't see any more new comments or questions coming from the audience. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. So Rob, Christy, thank you both so much for joining us tonight. And to close things out, where should anybody go if they wanted to know a little bit more information about you two, about Gamers.Vote, or just about their local polling places? Is there any other resources that you want to give a quick shout out to, or maybe just a shout out to like your personal to something that's more personal value to you or to Gamers.Vote?
You said it, Gamers.Vote. It's done. It's that easy. It's Gamers.Vote. Click on the thing. Check if you're registered, or register if you know you're registered. I would tell everybody, check if you're registered first. We'll walk you through the process to make sure that you're actually registered, and then you can register if you're not.
Yeah. And you can find out all the things that we're potentially doing on our events page and on our social. You can see a lot of our activity. If there's a particular event you want to tune into, we have some really exciting ones coming up next week.
Yeah, check out our Game the Vote initiative. You can check out our YouTube channel. We've got a nice little Game the Vote video out there you can check on and share. Feel free, share it as wide as you want.
Thank you guys so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for joining. It was great talking with y'all.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And again, thank you, Rob, Christy, for joining. And yeah, we will see you all next time.
Vote,
vote, vote.